We knew that we were isolated financially, but not morally.
Big challenge was to convince Manizha to make this film, because it was clear for me she was in a very exposed situation. She was and she still is the ambassador of Afghanistan.
Even if we can help one girl, even if we can help one person, that makes a change. That not recognize the Taliban, because we cannot recognize or work with a regime that excludes women from public life and education. And at the same time, we were suddenly left without fundings, without salaries, and without logistical support. Silence is never neutral. Silence always sides with power. And in Vienna, the embassy, became a kind of moral outspot or a hub for human rights. It was easy for us to just leave, just to pack our stuff and leave. But we stayed out of a sense of responsibility.
Welcome to FO Live. This is Laura Pavon, and joining me today, I have the distinguished Afghan ambassador to Austria, Manizha Bakhtari, and the award-winning filmmaker Natalie Halla, who have recently screened their documentary titled The Last Ambassador. Mrs. Bakhtari is a renowned diplomat, author, and journalist. Before serving as ambassador to Austria, she was ambassador to the Nordic countries and chief of staff for Afghanistan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Her contributions to academia, politics, and her commitment to action make her a very important advocate for gender equality for women in Afghanistan and worldwide. Having the ambassador here with us is an immense privilege, as she is the heart of this documentary. Natalie Halla is the director. She has received numerous awards and nominations at important festivals throughout her career. The Last Ambassador is now being presented at international film festivals, and it has already received special mentions from juries at the Biogram Film Festival in Italy and the Hot Dogs in Toronto, and I'm sure there will be more to come because this is just starting. I know that Mrs. Halla has a long history of addressing human rights issues in her films, and of course, The Last Ambassador is no exception. In this case, the film is shedding light on the constant human rights violation of women and girls in Afghanistan. And these violations that we will touch upon in this conversation include restrictions on women's and girls' freedom of movement, speech, sexuality, and right to justice, among many other things. They happen every day, and the offenders not only go unpunished, but they are the ones in charge. So with this start, hello, Ambassador Manizha and Natalie, welcome. And I would like us to start by setting the grounds to understand how The Last Ambassador came to be, and how did it come that the national history of Afghanistan became part of your personal life story. What is the actual situation of the Afghan embassy in Vienna? We know that it's facing financial and logistical challenges. So maybe let's start talking about how we got here. And I was thinking earlier, maybe did everything start in 2021 with the NATO forces left Afghanistan? But probably the issue is more complex than that. But we can start wherever you would like us to, and so that our viewers understand too, how did we come to this situation of the isolated embassy?
Thank you so much, Laura, for having me. It's a pleasure to talk to you today. And hello, Natalie. I think to understand where we are today, especially the situation of our embassy in Vienna, we have to look beyond a single date, even though August 2021 is an unavoidable turning point. But it started months before, actually. The withdrawal of United States and NATO forces and the sudden collapse of our government marked a dramatic turning point. We experienced something unimaginable. The complete institutional disappearance of a state overnight, ministries stopped functioning, the parliament just broke down, the banking system collapsed, and Afghanistan was cut from its own resources. And for embassies like ours, we suddenly found ourselves in limbo and in the middle of nowhere, and we didn't know what to do. And of course, that created an impossible situation for us, and we did not recognize the Taliban, because we cannot recognize or work with a regime that excludes women from public life and education. And at the same time, we were suddenly left without fundings, without salaries, and without logistical supports. And yet that's so difficult for a nation abroad to function without its government support. But yet we knew that our responsibilities towards our citizens did not disappear. We were responsible, even though we did not have a government. And in Vienna, the embassy, became a kind of moral outspot or a hub for human rights. It was easy for us to just leave, just to pack our stuff and leave. But we stayed out of a sense of responsibility. And we knew that we were isolated financially, but not morally. We continued our work because diplomacy is not only about governments. I believe it's the world is changing, and it's about people. And when justice is denied, then you have to raise your voice. Doesn't matter whether you're a diplomat or you're a government servant or whatever. And I was representing a country that had lost its political voice, and at the same time trying to preserve its dignity. And that was my responsibility to stay. And this is where my personal story and Afghanistan's history completely overlap. And Natalie and we met, and Natalie proposed me to produce this documentary and to make this documentary. And although I was hesitant at the beginning because I did not want to reveal my personal life in front of thousands of audience, but then I was thinking that, okay, through this story, we can tell the people how our women are suffering and what is the actual situation in Afghanistan. And
Thank you very much. And now for that response. And now that you mentioned when you met with Natalie and the project started, some of the things that I was wondering and that I wanted to ask both of you about is, of course we can all imagine the challenges that filming this documentary could entail, and of course ranging from censorship to the difficulties in securing financing. Could you maybe both of you tell me a little bit more about how long did it take you to put the project together? What were some of the challenges that you faced? And maybe later we can also talk about the satisfactions of the documentary.
Well, as Manizha said, the first challenge for me, the big challenge, was to convince Manizha to make this film, because it was clear for me she was in a very exposed situation. She was, and she still is, the ambassador of Afghanistan, persecuted by the Taliban, in a very, very, very fragile situation, and also even if she weren't in that situation, generally, it's not easy to convince a person to make a personal movie about you. I mean, if somebody would approach me, I probably would also say no. So the great thing is that Manizha gave me the chance to meet her personally, and I thank her so much, because that actually was the beginning of our journey together. So in this half an hour where we met, like from face to face and woman to woman, and I came alone. I didn't have anybody. I didn't have a team at that time. So yeah, I think from the very beginning on, we kind of started a friendship and a relationship of trust. And so yeah, I knew that I had to start this movie without financing, because I couldn't lose the moment and the time. And I started filming alone with my camera. And then after a year, it was clear for me that this movie could get really big, and it was so important, and I had to do, I mean, this was such an important subject, so it should reach really the main audience, the biggest audience as possible. And of course, it helps if you have a bigger production company on board. And so I approached Golden Girls production company in Vienna, who were very excited about the film topic and about Manizha and her story. And yeah, so I got them on board. We got with the time we got more financing. We could go to Tajikistan. We could afford, like you know, all the things you need to make a movie with really good quality. And you asked about how long it took. Well, it was my longest movie, my longest project. It took 4 years. Especially also the editing process was extremely complicated. If you see the movie, you see it's a mosaic of a lot of different footage shot by us, but also footage from Afghanistan, from different sources. Also old material, family archive material from the ambassador. And yeah, a lot of different footage, which dramaturgically was not easy to put together, because in the end you're making a movie about a very charismatic person, but who is using her voice. You know, it's not like film-wise or aesthetic-wise. You cannot put one speech after the other, and the message is the same, like protecting women and girls and speaking for the rights of women and girls in Afghanistan. So I need to make a movie which lasts 80 minutes and has to have its up and downs and its dramaturgy. And so it took us more than a year just to put all the puzzle pieces together. Yeah.
No, I can imagine that's why I was really curious about the production process and some of the things that I believe are part of all of this is this tension between having European institutions or like there being production companies or human rights organizations as sort of allies, but how to deal with this tension between the work that is needed in Afghanistan and being outside and needing this allyship with Human Rights Watch and needing financing. Maybe I'm not articulating the question very eloquently, but I think what I want to get at is how did you find this contrast between the activism and the grassroots organizing of women in Afghanistan and actually the international action? Like maybe, of course, Manizha can speak probably a lot about this too, but maybe to you as someone who went to Afghanistan too, did you realize something different that you saw that Europe is not understanding?
Well, I didn't go to Afghanistan because I wanted to go there, but it was clear that I could not film anything without putting the people in Afghanistan in threat, and also the team, my film team. So the reality on ground, I know through Manizha, and I know it through the images and all the documentation and information we got in all these years. With the time, somebody like me who didn't have a lot of idea about Afghanistan, with the time you get a sort of little expert. I mean, not an expert at all. It's such a complicated country, of course, and you have to learn the history and everything, and the culture and about the ethnic groups and everything to understand at least a small part. I cannot even say this, but with the time, of course, I learned a lot about it, and while the political issue, I think Manizha is much more the expert to talk about, but I can say, well, I don't know. We didn't really work with human rights group during the filmmaking process, but I guess I can say now that the film is finished that there's so much interest, but worldwide from so many groups, women rights groups, human rights groups, but all kind of associations. There's much more interest in Afghanistan and in the fate of women and girls that I could have expected, and that gives me hope. That there's so much interest in the film that wherever we sent it, just like a short email saying, okay, there is this movie, and there was immediately a positive response, and everybody wanted to show the movie. And then the people who saw the movie and who saw how strong Manizha is, and everybody goes out and has the feeling, I have to help, I have to do something about it. I cannot stay silent. I think that is the strongness about this movie, that it really makes people want to do something, because we have Manizha there, and she's fighting alone, more or less alone, in her situation, and against the Taliban, and she's so brave, so people kind of want to imitate her.
And now that you say that, have the women in Afghanistan is this possible that this circulates?
In Afghanistan, I don't know if I mean, at that point now it is people can watch it online since a few days, so it is like possible. I don't know if it is like in which version of it's just for now in German. I'm not sure about it, but yeah, earlier, later, I guess that even people in Afghanistan might watch it. I don't know. What do you think, Manizha?
Yeah, well, I would say that for the time being, it's kind of impossible for the people in Afghanistan to watch this documentary for two reasons. First of all, it's not available there, right? We do not have a functioning cinema to screen a documentary or a film, because art, film, and cinema are forbidden in Afghanistan unless it serves the Taliban's purpose. So that is the main reason. And even watching this documentary in Afghanistan might be translated into a crime, because it's against the Taliban, and whoever want to watch this documentary and the Taliban understands about that, then the life of that person might be in danger. So for the time being, I don't think so. But as Natalie said, later, sooner, we have the moment to screen this documentary in Afghanistan. But we have millions of our people in diaspora spread it in different countries, and they have the chance to watch this documentary. But actually, even it's not for our women in Afghanistan, it's not it's not a priority to watch this documentary, because they are braver than who I am. I mean, like they are under the real threat in Afghanistan. They are living under a dictatorship, living under a regime that do not recognize women's participation. So then it's actually, this documentary serves their purpose. It's not for them to watch that or learn something from that, because actually we portray them. It is, I know that is a piece of art. I know that we have put all efforts there, but the main purpose of this documentary is to show the world how our women in Afghanistan live and how they survive under such a regime and how brave they are. Because, through this documentary, you see our pains, but it's important to see our resilience as well. I mean, the woman's braveness and their resilience in Afghanistan, it's not easy, because although these are known facts, but, women and girls have been banned from almost everything, from higher education, from working, appearing in public institutions or public gatherings, and from simply participating in society. And they are denied access to healthcare, freedom of movement, and the right to be seen or heard. So, these are, you can put it as under a term, gender apartheid. So that is what we call it, gender apartheid, because they are part of a coordinated system of oppression that has led to early marriages, mental health crisis, and unimaginable suffering. Natalie and I and the team, we were working to make this documentary. I mean, our main purpose is to raise our voice, to tell the world, and to be part of this big movement.
Exactly, and this big movement that is multifaceted, that, like you say, maybe it's us who have to learn from the women in Afghanistan and from their resilience and way of organizing. And when what you were saying, and I want to ask you many things about this this idea of the gender apartheid. What I was visualizing is that, of course, that when women are relegated to their homes, they are in danger. And I am also one of the things that I research more about is sexual violence. And I can imagine this situation of an apartheid, but that means that there's a complete absence of justice for. I imagine, that means that there is a completely absence of justice for women. I can't contemplate. I don't know about the law if rape is contemplated in the law, if it isn't. But if you can tell me a little bit more about the justice system, maybe very briefly, but to understand also the actual danger and threat to life as well.
So, as I said before, since the Taliban's return to power, Afghanistan has seen a total collapse of democratic institutions and democratic structures. And it's now the only country in the world ruled without a constitution or a functioning legal system. It means that we do not have a justice system right now. And the system the Taliban created, it serves only their purpose and their gunmen, not the people of Afghanistan. You don't see even one democratic institution in Afghanistan to advocate for justice in the country, because, all representative institutions have been dismantled. And in this situation, even we cannot talk about justice. Of course, justice is denied in the country, and women have lost all their resources. They do not have a legal system to protect them. They do not have a government order to protect them, and they do not have constitution or other legal orders to protect them. And even the traditional way of living in the country do not protect women in Afghanistan. And when we are talking about discrimination in Afghanistan, it's not about some isolated cases. It's not about some or a few cases of discrimination. It's about the whole system designed to erase women from the society and to make women's rule defined to motherhood and raising a family. That's all. That's the description for women in Afghanistan. So in this system, women are nothing but an instrument.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
And, that is why we call that a gender apartheid system, because you see segregation, subjugation, discrimination, systematic discrimination against women in the society. And there is no system, no institution to protect women from this situation. And it comes from so-called government, because that is a regime and they have created the system. And, now even though this term is not codified, or it's not internationally recognized by the governments or by the UN system, but right now many people have been talking about this term, and a legal system is kind of developing for that, and many lawyers and women rights activists are working to codify this term, because the language matters. We should call it gender apartheid because it is gender apartheid, and we should have a legal system to describe what is gender apartheid. Exactly. And what are the consequences for those who are committing serious crimes and put women in that difficult situation. And that's why we call that gender apartheid.
And language is super important to recognize certain realities. That the term femicide is actually has been very recently integrated into the law, the killing of women just for being women. And I don't know if you know this author, Silvia Federici, who writes about witch hunts, and how the origin of witch hunts, when women were killed in mass for no reason. But of course, the reason was that capitalism was being constructed, and they needed free labor and reproduction. They needed, all forms of free labor. One of them being, of course, reproduction, as in having children. But the point is that she talks also about gendercide, and these terms are important because they illuminate a reality that maybe we are not seeing. But when you were talking about this, and also now going back to this idea of hope, or if we can't call it like that, I don't know. Is there anything in this apartheid that allows for networks of solidarity of women to connect, to come together? For example, we also saw the example in what happened in Iran, and that's in 2022, and that was very much mediated by social media. And sometimes, not only social media, technology has played a role in facilitating sort of clandestine networks and forms of organizing, and I understand that that's not the situation in Afghanistan, that you cannot protest, that you cannot even be seen, like you said. So we are talking about another paradigm, but maybe from the knowledge that you have you seen, maybe also through the Daughters program, this possibility of countering this apartheid, or that how these networks could be created, maybe through social media too, I don't know. Of course, the example of Iran is sad because we all saw how it was suppressed and the backlash, but it was very important as well for women.
First of all, let me say that the Iran situation is totally different from Afghanistan. Iran and Afghanistan are not comparable in different ways. Although, women around the world, they have the same goal, the same objectives, but the situation is different, and then our approaches are different, and the situation we are in are different. Well, networking is very important, and I believe in the power of networking. And fortunately, we have been able to make groups and networks in Afghanistan and outside of Afghanistan. And we have our women in Afghanistan are connected with the world. Not, of course, everyone, but many of them. The thing is, this generation is the results of 20 years of exercising democracy in Afghanistan. They are, the new generation are educated. They are, well educated, and they are aware of the situation. They are aware of their rights, and they know the importance of networking and the importance of solidarity between the people around the world, and in particular women around the world, to to protect the rights of women in Afghanistan and globally. But the thing is, when the government collapsed, our women and girls, they took the streets of the cities, and they protested and they raised their voice. But unfortunately, they were met with violence. And the Taliban took many to the prisons, and many faced tortures, imprisonment, and even sexual violence, and many, many more. And now the situation inside the country is not it's not possible for our women right now to go to the streets and to peacefully raise their voices and demonstrate what they want. But we still have internet connection in the country. We have social media, and women can post their stories, although with the nicknames, not with their real names, and that makes a big network. And talking about gender equality globally is complicated, and you are, absolutely know that we should not look to the women of Afghanistan from the Western lens, because these are different, and our women do not need to be explained or rescued. We need to be listened to and supported in ways that respect our context. And fighting for women's rights is global, but resistance is local. The women in Iran, they can choose which kind of approach or which kind of resistance suits them. And in Afghanistan also, we know our ways. And our women have always fought for their rights, from inside classroom, from underground schools, from exile, and from diplomatic platforms. And you mentioned about the Daughters program. Yeah, programs like Daughters also work because they are grounded in our realities, and that's what our girls in Afghanistan need: education. They need an education, and we try to help them to get an education. And meanwhile, we network with the girls in Afghanistan, and platforms such as Daughters and many more programs like that create the platforms for our girls to connect with each other and to connect with the world. And for the time being, what does the future hold? We don't know. It's uncertain, but it's not hopeless. We cannot afford to lose hope. We are hopeful, and our women are still organizing, still educating, still speaking, even when they are told to disappear. They are not ready to take orders from the Taliban, although they cannot appear in the public, but they have their own spaces, they have their own gatherings, and they are trying to learn. They are reading books. It's not like the women are just sitting in their homes and they are crying. No, our women are brave, and they find their ways. But it's not possible for every girls and woman in Afghanistan, because Afghanistan is also a poor country, and the families cannot afford internet access for their children. They do not have spaces for online classes. I mean, it's a problem, and we should not rely on online education or only networking. We need to root out the problem. We need to fight it from the very first foundation. But still, it helps still networking and speaking out is important. Just yesterday, a room in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Spain open for the woman of Afghanistan. Actually, they named that room the woman of Afghanistan. And this kind of solidarity, I mean, this signs of solidarity are important for our women, because that says that Afghanistan is not forgotten in a time that the discourse of Afghanistan is kind of dying down. We see these signs of solidarity, these acts of solidarity are important, and it is a way of networking with our women in diaspora or inside of Afghanistan. So, I mean, like, what should we continue to talk about? What can we do? I mean, like, not only the bans, but the courage. Even this documentary that shows the pains, that shows the suffering, but also it carries the courage and resilience. And we should not only talk about the suffering. Yeah, it is a reality, but also the resistance, not only Afghanistan, but the global silence that allows this to continue. That is another major point that we need to talk about. That. Of course, we appreciate and we are grateful to the acts of solidarity and to the statements and to sympathies and empathies, but it's a time to translate all those sympathies and empathies into act, because the global silence, I mean, is at this time is kind of unbelievable, because silence is never neutral. Silence always sides with power. And I'm aware that the global political texture is kind of moving and it's different now. And the values we have built in the past centuries are kind of not considered as values now, and they redefine the values. I mean, but still we have solid concepts, we have solid values that we cannot change them. Human rights is human rights, and human rights should serve all the human around the world, and we should respect the universality of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and that applies everywhere.
Yes, that's I completely agree with that analysis in the sense of how we've left the 20th century. And of course, there are things that we don't like about the 20th century, but there are some foundations that at least we all that's there was some consensus, at least, after the Second World War, where things at least were projected to be different. Now we are seeing all of that being blown up. And what you were saying about silence, I think for sure, it's been really revealing with the Palestine topic, for instance. And I think, and I'm not going to enter into that now, but me as an educator, in the US, I've seen a lot of the difficulties with freedom of expression, and I can imagine that in this neoliberal, I guess, US-led kind of media, in English at least, there is these words or these countries that people are using as empty signifiers or empty symbols that, like, for of course, I just said Palestine, Venezuela, and Afghanistan has this power, of conveying a set of ideas and symbols that are not actually true. They are filled with interested ideas, and I think that that what you were saying, that I agree that is very important to talk about the courage and the dignity of a country that didn't start existing it's like its culture, it's much deeper and old than many of the other countries that are now leading the world. and I think that, well, you were I want to answer to many of the things that you were saying, but precisely I think that it's very important to focus on the courage, like you were saying, and I would like also for you and Natalie to give us highlights of these bright moments in the documentary, and also the bright moments in the Daughters program. That, by the way, I do think that it's of course all of this is not happening from one day to the other, but it's planting seeds for the future, and it's not only planting seeds for the future, but it's maintaining a social thread that already existed or has always existed between women, but that's not dead, and that will continue to exist. And women are surviving and finding their own survival strategies. And like you said, the diaspora as well is very important. And I'm also curious about the reception of the diaspora of the documentary, the reception of the documentary in general, and if you have received any backlash. I don't know, I hope not. But yeah, for now, whatever you want to tell me.
Well, when I made this movie, I was conscious that by telling this story, not everybody in this world would like it, and that I was even exposing myself to certain risk. But I have to say that now that I made it and I showed it to the world, and we have screened it in all continents and so many places, and also in Austria and many, many cinemas, I haven't received any single negative reaction or any threat. The reception was so positive, also especially beyond the Afghan diaspora. I never forget this premiere in Austria when one man of the Afghan diaspora came to us and came to the ambassador, and he said that I'm speaking in the name of Afghan men here in Austria, and I'm so proud of you, ambassador. And this was really touching. So it also shows that don't put all the men in the same pot, but there are also many men supporting. I think, Manizha, you can tell more about it, but supporting the film, supporting the embassy, and supporting the cause. Especially, I guess, those who have daughters themselves who are affected by the situation. So yeah, like concluding, I can say that this film gave me a lot of positive energy, meaning that I really understood that me as a single woman, as a just a human being, filmmaker and artist, I have the power in my hands to raise my voice in a very strong manner, and it makes a difference, and it might make a difference, and hopefully it makes a real difference in the future. And it gives me a lot of strength to continue making films, actually. A lot of strength.
Oh, that sounds really beautiful, because I think that in this world of this, that if we fall into the complete despair and don't realize that and now you are giving this image of hope to many people that maybe thought that also in the diaspora that maybe don't dream with returning or dream with returning. And not only that, but of course, what we were saying, awareness, talking about it. Is it insufficient? But at least it helps. Like, it helps. We have to continue extending the message. And maybe sometimes it will be in a narcissistic way that people want to be charitable, or I don't know. There are many ways to engage, and some of them may seem empty, but I think I believe that it does touch many hearts when people actually see with their eyes. And that's what happened with Palestine, because I'm sorry to come back again here, but it was a very revealing example for me with my students in the US. I had never seen in the US a movement in favor of Palestine, and I had seen it in Spain, but I hadn't seen it in the US. And it was because they were seeing social media. They were seeing these images in social media, and they were seeing it with their own eyes. So that's what I do think that, that for sure there's this, it can foster activism.
Yeah, and if I may add, echo what Natalie has said, the enthusiasm and support from diaspora and from everyone towards this documentary have been incredible, and we are grateful for that. Of course, there have been some criticism about some certain spots or things, like about the name of this documentary. Some people said that, she's not the last ambassador, because there are many other ambassadors right now holding the positions, and also what about the next generations of female ambassadors of Afghanistan? And actually, the name is very symbolic, the last ambassador, and it symbolizes a different chapter in Afghanistan's history, because just 5 years back, we had several women ambassadors, and right now I'm the only one. And for the time being, for this period, I'm the last one, because the Taliban never sent or assigned a woman to be an ambassador in another country. And also, it does not mean that we undermine the rule of next generation. And we are, of course, we are hopeful that many new female ambassadors from Afghanistan will be assigned in different countries, of course. But that the name, I mean, it's very symbolic. But these are the small critics that, of course, we receive, and I mean, it's not a big issue. But of course, as Natalie said, we have put ourselves in front of the eyes of the people, and there might be some risk, we don't know. But of course, that concern is always there. Speaking out has already made me a target, but visibility also offers protection and purpose. And if the film helps even one person understand what's happening in Afghanistan, inspires someone to act, then the risk is worth. I didn't agree to this film to tell my story. I agreed because it reflects the story of a whole generation of our women who refused to disappear. It's not about me. I'm so humbled to be portrayed in this documentary. But I always say, well, you see me, but through me, you see the suffering and also resilience and resistance of a whole generation.
Mm-hmm. And the results of your, like, you were raised, and you are the result of a country that is alive and is still continuing to produce new women like you, and it will, it will, I am so certain. I mean, not so certain, I wish I could be certain, but I have a lot of trust in feminism, and this is a part maybe of the record of the interview, but for me, is the feminist movement the revolution of the 21st century. And at least in Latin America, is some of the things that I study. I do see a lot of grassroots feminist organizations that to me are really changing leadership and certain things. So I don't know, like you said, we can't talk about this globally in the same way that we can't talk about this in feminist waves, because we have the first wave, the second wave, because we have all of the waves maybe happening at at the same time, no? And the struggle for financial independence is connected to the struggle for sexual liberty, but the interesting thing maybe of the 21st century paradigm with social media and this idea of all the waves happening at the same time is that maybe it won't work with the logic of the 20th century. We don't know what will happen, and maybe to give more knowledge also to the people that don't know how actually the daughters programs work. If you would like maybe to tell us, and maybe we can start closing with that if you want or not, but specifically how it works and what does the future hold for the daughters program in specific?
The daughters program is not a big program. It's I would say that it's a small one, and it's not centralized. I mean, it's a decentralized campaign, and we encourage other people who are living abroad to protect and to help a girl in Afghanistan in school age. I mean that is a volunteer initiative, and that supports girls inside Afghanistan with education, emotional support, and mentorship, and also it creates a network. That is the main reason of this program, and it's been almost 4 years that this program is running. And through this documentary, also we have collected some support to this program, and because it's not like a very big program, it's just a private initiative by me and some of my friends. But I mean, there are several initiatives like daughters program and supporting this kind of initiative that provides a framework for education and for a long-term way of how to put it, to empower women in Afghanistan, and to make a big transformation and to contribute to the future of Afghanistan. Daughters program are designed to help girls in the country, and every woman who is able can directly support one girl in Afghanistan, and we do not have an administration or financial framework to make some obstacles or barriers for women. It's very simple. You find a girl in Afghanistan and you support that girl through a package, and that package contains financial support, mental health support, friendship, and also leadership. That is the main idea for the daughters program.
Thank you very much for explaining it again, and hopefully like this is inspiring to many people. And I wanted to like also to close and include Natalie too. What are your next projects, Natalie, or even with the Last Ambassador? What are the next steps, the next film festivals? What are you envisioning for the Last Ambassador in 2026? And also, what are you doing in other projects?
Well, this year, I think it will still go to many festivals. The ambassador and me, we will travel in February to Berlin, where the film has been nominated for cinema by the Cinema for Peace Festival. It has got a nomination, and it will be screened in London to diplomats in relation with the End Gender Apartheid campaign, and I think in many other places. And I'm working on a new project about the threats imposed on the ICC by powerful countries.
Wow. So very, very, very interesting as well. And you would say that that this document. I also saw that you've worked in topics like West Sahara, or maybe I'm confusing. I hope I'm
No,
not.
it's right.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if, for example, one of my films is separated, where actually I filmed in Palestine, I filmed in West Sahara, and in Slovakia. I filmed walls constructed to separate people from each other, and I wanted to show and tell their suffering behind these walls, and which consequences it has on the human toll people were paying for these political decisions. So yeah, on my movies, as you said in the introduction, are related to human rights. You know, I studied law myself. I have a very strong feeling for justice and injustice, and when I feel there is injustice, I cannot just remain silent. So I think as a filmmaker, I have more power in my hands than as a lawyer, and I can do more. So yeah, I will continue making films.
Yes, and that's very interesting, because it's true. Like the power of media, no? Like we have to always be as skeptical about it, but it's true. Art, the power of maybe not media in that sense, but art. And I think that it can touch hearts, and what you said earlier, like maybe with touching only one person, that's a lot. And is there anything else that you feel that we should discuss that I haven't touched upon? I was definitely very interested in reflecting the making of this document, the political significance of this documentary, and the historical significance of the documentary. And I think it's the two things, because on one side there's the archive that stays of this story of Manizha's story, and of course this should be in history books one day. And suddenly women couldn't work in public positions, but there was one person, one woman that stayed, in the embassy, and now we have that archive. But at the same time, that we have touched upon like the political significance, which makes it controversial. But like as you are saying, maybe you are not receiving as much controversy, but the challenge maybe is that it does reach people in this world in which nothing reaches anyone. So any final remarks that you would like to give, I'll be happy to hear. And we can say goodbye.
Thank you so much, Laura, for this insightful interview. I just want to add that, if our girls are banned from education at schools, what responsibility do we have beyond condemning it? Because you see many statements of condemning, resolutions, statements, and just empty words, but we need actions. And the Daughters program came from a very simple but urgent question: what can we do, even if it's small? You just said a very good point, that even if we can help one girl, even if we can help one person, that makes a change, even though we do not see the results today, but we plant the seeds for the future, and that is important. And this program is a form of resistance, or it's a kind of planting seeds for the future of Afghanistan. And it helps our girls access education, connect them with mentors, and ensure that their futures are not entirely determined by the Taliban decrees. And this is deeply personal for me. Education for girls are deeply personal for me. And I meet these girls through online platforms. I hear their fears, their hopes, their determination, and that motivates me to go forward and to do more work and to raise more awareness in the international platforms. So once again, thank you so much for this interview, and all the best.
Thank you, Manizha. I really appreciate your time coming with us. Hearing you has been an immense pleasure, and I'm sure that anyone who listens to this is going to want to go to watch the film and immediately, because it's definitely a very unique situation, historical situation that you intersection that you found yourself in, and I hope the best for you and for the Daughters program, and we'll continue attentive. Thank you very much.
Yeah, also thank you so much, Laura, for making this interview possible and for spreading the word and for insisting in making this interview. Yeah, I hope it reaches, or the message reaches a lot of people and make people become interested in the story and in the fate of the millions of women and girls in Afghanistan. So it's important to keep on talking about it. And as Manizha says, it's not enough to just condemn and have empty words of empathy, but we need actions.
Join the conversation at Fair Observer and subscribe to our YouTube channel.